Okay, man, it's that time of day. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, to the live show. Name's Nate Albaugh, high school football coach here in Illinois for 20 years. Yes, 20 seasons of coaching high school ball. And quick turnaround for us this year. Football ended, 2 weeks ago? And we're in the thick of wrestling now. Went like that. And as soon as wrestling finishes in about 6 more weeks, it's right back into football. And so we kind of all, as a football staff already, are like, our head coach stopped by my classroom the other day, maybe yesterday. He's like, I was thinking about this. Let's go talk to somebody about this. So I get one of my contacts on the line. He said, let's Zoom with him. And he's like, dude, we got to do this right now because... the summer season's like right around the corner. So it's not like, you feel like, oh, season just ended. Oh, yeah, let's think about hooking up with so-and-so and so that we can learn a little bit about X, Y, or Z. But it's not like a far-off thing. It's like if you want to learn anything right now, you better go do it right now so that you can turn around here in no time and install it, right? I mean, so you gotta learn it now, decide whether or not to use it now, communicate that to the staff now, so that it's ready to go the second that wrestling and all the spring sports are over, which is like June, 20th-ish, right? And so you're ready to go right now. How about you guys? Guys, welcome. Welcome to the live show. Love having you. Thanks for stopping by. As always, want to ask you to check in. We are live, so would love to hear where you're watching from. I see Alexandre Ribeiro in the house out of Brazil. Cody Gardner in the house out of Park City, Utah. Living that high mountain life. Welcome, guys. How about you guys? Do you have everything ready to go for your summer install now? Do you, as a staff, do you guys have a hard cutoff date for, we need to know what we're going to do install-wise by blank date? Do you have a cutoff date? How about you, Alex? How about you, Cody Gardner? You guys got a cutoff date? We try hard to make our decision of what we're going to be doing next year by, let's say it's May 1st, right? Even if you're a team that usually changes very, very little, there's almost always one small thing you might tweak, whether it's something in a coverage or offensively. But do you guys as a staff have that hard cutoff date? I've wondered that. I know we used to try to have a hard cutoff date with my staff when I was a head coach. And I think it's a big deal, right? You gotta know what is that cutoff so that, almost like as a head coach, when I was a head coach, it was like that cutoff date was as much for me as it was for anyone else. I had to cut myself off and tell my assistants, hey, by this date, cut me off. I can't just keep thinking of things to install forever, right? Surely you can't. Larry in the house. What's up, Dad? Jerry Payne in the house. Welcome. We have met AM. We have met him. What's up, coaches? David Thomason in the house. Jerry Payne out of Central Illinois. Not too far from me. David Thomason out of Oregon in the house. Welcome, Coach Thomason. Oh, we've met as a staff, currently working with the incoming freshmen who have not had the chance to play in over a year. Boy, that's so true. The youth really didn't get much football at all. Cody Gardner says, yeah, May 1 is that cutoff. Have a meeting this week and next with my D staff. Yeah, it's that time to prep for summer. Because, yeah, it takes time to get your staff ready, right? Because most of the time you might have some level of turnover in your staff. If you just have to replace one coach, you have time to sit down with that coach and say, here's what we do, or give that guy time to have a little bit of input if that's the direction you'd like to go. Well, let's get Micah Hunsaker in the house, and I'm gonna go hide my self view. Coach Hun's in the house. You got us?
I got you. You got me?
I got you, man. Coach, all looking right. Good as always, rocking the new caveman
Appreciate
gear
it.
Each night.
That's right. Coached here for a lot of years. Got plenty of gear.
My wife actually asked me, it was this morning, and I came down in another new Unity thing, and she said, how many Unity shirts are you going to have? I said, Well, it depends on how long we're here, right? Like every year I'll get
every year you might get a couple, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I don't know how long we staying, babe. I might have a million. At some point, it's like you just need like a separate closet for all your gear.
I mean, most of my closet is my gear, to be honest. I mean, I don't have to buy very many clothes.
Exactly. It's like, oh, we're going date night. How do I resist grabbing the
coaching polo?
Yes, because it looks nice, right? Yeah, or the latest zip up that I just got. Like, okay, don't grab that one. But there are times, man, where I put on something not school colors, and I feel like a different person.
It's true. Yeah, I feel like a trader or something, right?
It's like for a moment here, I'm not a coach. I mean, I'm just a regular Joe going to dinner with my wife. Well, welcome, Coach Hunsaker. We're glad to have you. Guys in the house, if you're just getting here, hey, check in. Let us know where you're watching from. We'd love having you. Leave us a thumbs up, and if you could click share and let guys know that we are live right now, we would much appreciate it. We are installing with Micah Hunsaker, offensive coordinator at American Fork High School in Utah, just south of Salt Lake City. How long to get to downtown Salt Lake City from American Fork High School, Coach?
About 25 minutes in traffic.
You guys are right there, and like almost every Salt Lake City area school, you look from the home team press box, and you're looking at a field with the backdrop of gorgeous mountains.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
you got some nice views out here.
Man, snow-capped mountains. Those things are snow-capped by when?
They stay like that probably till sometimes June, July, depending on the weather.
How about during football season?
Yeah, come like September or so, we start
They're
to see
snow-capped again? Oh, yeah, my goodness.
As soon as it starts to get cold, September, October,
you start seeing it. It's pretty incredible. It really is. My wife and I, we just spent about 48 hours total there. But we made the most of our 48 hours, and we had a great weekend, man. Gorgeous. Had food at a couple great spots.
Nice.
My wife got to go hiking the day I went up to Park City to shoot. So we made the most of it, man. Well, hey, Coach, we're talking install, man. And last night, and the guys are seeing it right now at the top of your screen, fellas. And whether you're watching live or you're going to come tune into this late tomorrow morning, whenever you get to it, up there at the top, you'll see we kind of laid out last night. We talked like the actual offense, right? Let's try to get down on paper what the actual offense. So you guys will see, in case you weren't here last night, they do throw the ball a ton. Doesn't mean they can't run the ball well when needed, but pretty much everything run-wise is going to be tagged as an RPO. So like they're going to throw the ball a ton. We talked last night maybe like 550 times a season. That's a really big number, but I mean, they've got a great plan for it. There's 6 passing families: curl, flat, snag, smash, levels, vertical, and spacing. Their runs, inside zone variations, which he talked about last night, wide zone a little bit. Counter GY, they're going to pull that tackle instead of that tight end. ISO, one back power, and then their screens: running back screen, wide receiver screen, tunnel screen. Wide receiver tunnel screen, and dual screen. And we said tonight we're going to talk formations, because it's a huge piece of what they do, formations and motions. Yep. And we love to talk like speed/tempo and communication. So let's just kick it off, man, right from the top. All you guys in the chat, feel free to throw in questions at any time, or ask each other questions, whatever you want to do. But if you do ask questions, I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. Coach, let's talk about formations, motions. Can you start by giving us any rhyme or reason as to the order you're bringing them in?
Yeah, typically when I start off, the first ones I'm going to do is what we call trips or quick formation. Trips is your normal 3x1 spread look. Quick is the 2x2 spread look. And the big thing for me when I'm teaching formations to the kids is they understand that every formation we use, with the exception of like empty or something, and even empty is somewhat similar, but all the formations are either 3x1 or a 2x2. And so once they understand that, then all of our concepts fall into place. They don't have to learn extra just because we're adding into their formation. So we'll start with those. Like day one this year in spring, I've got the list right here. We put in trips, 3x1, quick, spread, 2x2, empty. And then the next day we did like gray, what we call gray and deuce, which is essentially a 3x1 and a 2x2 with the tight end and the wing formation. So, because we do use, and those are probably the top 5 formations we use percentage-wise. You know, then we have different variations, stuff where the tight end's actually on the line, and then we have different personnel, 12 personnel. You know, when we bring in 2 tight ends, and this year we're super lucky. I mean, I think we probably could have the 2 best tight ends in the state. Both of them are just phenomenal. And so we may use some of that 12 personnel formations more. Just kind of see how it goes.
Well, when you do you have a list usually if you're going to start? Let's say again, let's pretend for a moment you're taking over at a new program.
Okay.
Is it going to be those 5? You're going to try to get those in week 1 type idea?
Yep. And then if I'm taking over to a new school, then I'm not going to probably install as fast as I am here.
Right.
And so we'll probably stick with those 5 for the first week. And you know what? That's the thing with installing, especially if you're changing schools. You don't really know what kind of personnel you're going to have, right?
Right.
I mean, a lot of schools around here don't even use tight ends that much. And so, you know, we may not ever get, I mean, if I went somewhere that didn't have that type of personnel at first, you know, who knows? We may not ever get to a 12 personnel look.
Okay, sure.
Just because that's not what they have. And those are typically later on that we get to anyway, just because, you know, we're only in that personnel group maybe 15% of the time.
So let me ask you a question that is specific to you, but the guys could find themselves in this situation at any time. You said you're looking at potentially having 2 of the best tight ends in the state, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some good-looking formations using 2 tight ends? Because it's like, especially here's the thing. Like I'm a long time wing T guy. So when I think tight ends, I'm like, well, right, here's what I'm going to do. But when you're a team that does more so what you're doing, and now you got 2 tight ends, what types of formations, what do you like?
So I would say the most common, there's 4 of them that I would say are the most common. And one is called wing, which is essentially, you know, one tight end's down, the other tight end's in a wing. And they're the same size as a split receiver. And then we have a single opposite. So it's kind of like a 3x1.
Yeah.
Love that one. And then we'll switch that and we'll call wing slot. And now that single receiver will move over, and now we're in a 2x2 look. The tight ends stay in the wing, and then the 2 receivers are spread out in 2. So those 2 are huge. And the other ones, I call it purple, which is the 2 tight ends they're both on the line, on each side of the line. And then you have the 2 split receivers, right? So we're in a 2x2 look. And the same thing with that. Now we can call purple slot, bring that other receiver over, and now we've got a 3x1 look with the 2 tight ends down. And so those are the 4.
Give us an idea of an influence for you looking at that tight end wing look. Because, like, in my mind, the first teams I see are like Iowa and Wisconsin.
Right.
Like, I mean, they're using that surface a lot. Like, so do you have any influences that you've kind of gone out and looked at that type of look?
I mean, it's kind of interesting. A lot of teams, I feel like, at least, I mean, I like to follow college ball a little bit more just because I think the game is a little bit, you know, it's more similar to high school than the NFL is. But NFL uses 12 personnel, you know, 13 personnel more than college.
Yeah, you're right.
Stuff. So, but like a local one right here, BYU, who had a great year last year, they use tight ends quite a bit in their stuff. And I've been lucky, you know, we coach Jeff Grimes, who's the offensive coordinator there, who just took over at Baylor this year. His son played for us last year. He was a tight end. And so
no kidding.
I've been kind of lucky to kind of rub shoulders with Coach Grimes, you know, and kind of learn from him in that way. So a lot of the tight end stuff I've tried to get from him. They love using that wing stuff when they do their fly sweeps, different things, get the tight ends out to block. So, I mean, that's one and probably the most predominant influence, I would say, that I follow.
Well, I like that look a ton. That is nasty. I mean, anytime when you have 3, first of all, 3 to a side is troublesome. And especially when one of those is a tight end. I mean, it's just difficult. And it just schematically, as you defend it, like it's just uncomfortable. It's never comfortable.
Right. The thing is both of these tight ends are phenomenal in the pass game too. Like they're incredible. Like they run great routes, they catch the ball well. And so really we get into these formations, and in the beginning it's more about, I want to figure out what the defense is going to do to respond to those formations, right? Are they going to stay in a too high look? If they do, then we should have numbers in the box to try and run the ball a little bit more. But a lot of times you bring those in, they may roll down to a one high, cover three or man, and now we're going to get one-on-one matchups on the outside that we like, or even one-on-one matchups with the tight end. So to me, that's the biggest thing when I throw those formations out in a game. I just want to see how they're going to react to them. How are they going to try and defend them?
Do you know what? I'm going to come back to that in a second. What's up, Lucas Freeman in the house? Welcome, Coach Freeman out of Minnesota. Glad to have you here tonight. All right, let's go ahead and just move forward, because I've learned over the last couple nights how fast our time goes.
Yeah.
So we've got some of your base formations. What motions are coming in first?
First motion I'm going to put in is just in our regular personnel, we have, two outside receivers, a tight end, what we call a slot receiver. We refer to him as an H. But the personnel of him is a lot more like he's a little shiftier, a little smaller, right? Kind of like you picture like a Julian Edelman, Wes Welker type the Patriots had. That type of body, and that's the first motion we're going to put in, is what we call like hum motion, which he's going to motion across the formation. We're going to line up in 2x2s, motion to 3x1s. We're going to line up in 3x1, motion to 2x2, and try and snap it on the run. I mean, one reason why is, again, we're just changing presentation, but also the motion helps quarterbacks, right? They get to see how the defense is reacting to it, and some defenses, overreact to it. Some are right on, and so it's really just about, finding out how they're going to deal with those type of things and see if we can get a matchup.
Do you ever find yourself,
the first one.
The H one's coming in first.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself using motions a lot early, and then as the game carries on, like you almost forget about it? Like,
no, for sure.
Or do you guys have a system to hold yourselves accountable? Like, let's keep doing this.
A lot of times, that's I think what happens. I think that stuff gets scripted in, right? In a game, stuff that you've worked on all week, you want to try it. And so the motions come in and you move them a lot. Really, for me, it depends on what we're seeing. And I try to be consistent in it. When I put together my call sheet, I'm going to write out the whole play. I'm going to add plays in there with motion. So hopefully when I'm looking at it even later on in the game, I'm still going to be able to call on it and move it, And I think a lot of teams, from a defensive standpoint, I think when you play a team that does as much RPO as we do, a lot of teams want to play man because it's, and it's kind of easier. It's not easy to play man, but it's easier assignment wise, right?
Yes.
You don't have to worry about guys being in too much conflict, especially linebackers and stuff. And so early on, we started seeing a lot of man when we started doing RPO stuff. And so that just upped the motion we wanted to use because, that's not something you want to deal with all the time.
Right.
So that's another reason why we do it, is just to try and discourage defenses, from trying to press us too and play a lot of man.
Yeah, that is discouraging because you're right. As soon as you start seeing a lot of RPO, you have to, you have to carefully consider what it is you're going to run defensively. You have to very carefully consider that. Yeah. Man allows, assignment-wise, it does become simpler. But then the second you start running across a formation, you just start chasing ghosts, I feel like.
Right.
Like, I always feel like my kids are trying to catch up. Like, once I start chasing a guy from one side of formation to the other.
And people are going to respond to it different ways, right? They're going to try and run with the motion. Some teams will try and bump safeties, roll a safety down, drop back. And so I want to see how they're going to respond to that.
Yeah, that's annoying. Okay, give us another idea. What else might you do besides just go from 3x1 to 2x2?
So another big one is the next motion is we're going to do a lot of like tight end motion stuff. We're going to start out in our spread looks, and then we're going to motion them into the box to be part of the run game, right? So I think a lot of teams, if we're just in spread formations, our normal spread, we're usually going to get something like around here. It's like a 4-2 look is probably the most common base look for it, right? And if we motion a tight end and they don't adjust, now all of a sudden we're gaining a number in essence, in the run game. And so I want to see if they respond to that. If we can gain an advantage at all in the run game. But if they adjust, then same thing. Now we'll motion them in. We can still do our pass game out of it, and try and beat some tendencies that way. So we're not always just motioning in to run. But that's probably the second big one we do. And then the last one I love is just quick motion from the running back in the backfield.
Just like a push motion?
Yeah, like if we're in gun, he's on the same side, we'll motion him out real quick, let him get going and snap it. Because we're trying to either overload an area.
Yep.
Or just seeing, again, how do they respond? Are they even responding to that motion? Like, do they respect it? Do they not? Sometimes linebackers shift, and now we got an open hole for a snag or a curl or, those type of things. So those are the main three motions that I really like and I use quite often.
Okay, so give me an idea. I'm defending you. I'm going to see, give us a ballpark percentage of times we're going to see motion.
Throughout the game, I say we're going to motion probably somewhere between 15 and 20% is my goal. Okay. I mean, honestly, I'd probably like to do it more, but like you said, sometimes you just kind of get going and and sometimes tempo plays into it too, like we talked about earlier, right? If we're trying to go faster, if we're trying to take advantage of something, then we're going to kind of cut down on the motion as well.
Jeff Rogers in the house out of Minnesota. Welcome, Coach Rogers. Glad to have you. 2 Minnesota men in the house. We're talking with Micah Hunsaker, OC at American Fork High School in Utah, American Fork, Utah, just south of Salt Lake City. And he's been with us all week. He's with us tonight. We're talking formations, motion, tempo, communication. Tomorrow night, we're hoping to see a little bit of game film, maybe.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Get to watch you guys play. Excited about that. Thank you all for checking in. Really appreciate you guys stopping and hanging out with us tonight. All right, man, so I'm seeing motion, 1 out of every 5 snaps-ish, 1 out every 6 snaps. And those are good, deliberate motions. I'm a big fan of motion. Obviously, it's just a lot that, for me, and again, not that anybody came here to listen to me, but for me as a play caller, it was like a lot of times using motion gave me a really simple set of if-thens. Right? Yes. It's just like they have to do one of, let's say, 3, right?
Right.
And it just made it a little bit easier conceptually for me to go, okay, definitely. If this, then this.
Yes. And some teams, like we've had some in the past where we'll just motion because they overreact to the motion, right? And now all of a sudden the guys are moving around, and so now they're not aligned, probably where they're always supposed to be, and so therefore their assignment may not be as clean either.
Yeah. We got our defensively, we got our heads spinning from a similar situation in our first game of the year. We ended up winning in overtime, but there was a significant period during that fourth quarter. We were in trouble. I'm the secondary coach. We were in trouble, man. Our heads were just plain spinning, right? Because of this, that, and and I'm on the sideline 40 yards away, and there's only so much I can do. It's like you're in the headset going, we just got to see if we're going to survive this because our kids are lost.
Because it's hard to change right in the moment, right? Especially if it's in the middle of a drive, first game. A lot of that stuff you maybe haven't had a chance to go over yet.
Yes,
and so it's like really hard to change. They kind of figure it out, and you can coach them up on the fly during the game. Or
do you get some guys now that you guys have been there several years and you've been good for several years, and you play in a really tough league? So you're facing good opponents with great coaches. Definitely. Are you starting to get a feel for how other guys like to defend you?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I think that's evolved. And some of them, some of these schools, they've had the same coordinators or same coaches for a few years. And so you kind of have a feel for how they want to defend you. And you got to expect when you go into the game, they're going to have some type of wrinkle. Something different, that they haven't done. And the big thing is trying to identify that early on. And then, to me, I actually like it that way. I mean, some of them are very hard, right? Doesn't mean I like going against their defense, but kind of having an idea is nice of what they're going to respond to. Because we use so many formations and motions that's not stuff that you typically see when you trade film, right? You
Right.
get a team, a lot of teams may just be static. They may be a 2x2, 3x1 all the time. So it's nice to kind of have an idea of how they're going to respond to our formations and motions. Whereas if I'm going to play a team brand new, I've never seen them before, it's a lot to figure out in a game, how they're trying to defend all that stuff.
One thing before we get to tempo and communication, do you ever do this? Because this is a situation we're in right now with my staff. We're looking at a wrinkle in our scheme because we know we need this wrinkle in order to beat the top team in our league.
Absolutely.
Do you ever catch yourself doing that?
For sure.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of the top teams are still good, within our region. I mean, the state champion the last 4 years or so have all come from our region, and so we've played them. We know what they do, and especially those teams where maybe you've struggled with them for a few years, you got to find ways to overcome it, right? And so now you're creating wrinkles that will do that. One of the big things we did is, I think after a couple of years, teams started picking up on what we were trying to do RPO wise, and so 2 years ago I started adding some front side read as well. We had always backside.
Yeah.
We're always backside reading. Now I'll do both because I'm trying to keep them on their toes a little bit more, and because some teams get dialed into that stuff and they play it well. And so
They do.
You got to find little wrinkles, especially when you're playing them every year. You got to find different ways to kind of overcome it.
Well said, Coach. All right, let's talk speed. How fast are you trying to play, or do you switching up tempos? So how fast and why that speed?
Yeah, so we try and go pretty fast. We don't huddle. Everything's no huddle in our offense. We signal everything in from the sideline. A few years ago when I first started, we had wristbands. I didn't like it. I felt like I had to just ride out too much stuff on it.
Yeah.
And
I've found that wristbands are really high maintenance. Like if you want to change one thing, now all of a sudden you need 50 new wristbands.
Right. And I got tired of that. So I'm like, you know what? And I'm not gonna lie, it was a big undertaking turning to all signals. Like the first year you did it, we're like, how are we gonna signal this? How are we gonna signal this? And now years later, we probably have like 200 signals. It's like from formations to protections to motions to the play, whatever it may be. And so it takes a while, but for me, we try and play pretty fast. I would say that we use about probably 3 different tempos. They're all no huddle. The normal tempo for us is just, plays over, we're signaling it in, and we're trying to go get it snapped as quick as we can. Then the fastest tempo we have is some of the one-word plays that a bunch of schools are starting to do. It was back in like 2017 when Coach Grimes was still at LSU before he came to BYU. We took actually a trip down there, sat in on a bunch of their spring practices and stuff like that, and that was one of the big things I took away from it. They were great at run, but they had all these fastballs and one-word plays, and I mean, it just, you're going normal tempo, then all of a sudden, boom, you're throwing a one-word play, and it just, it keeps people on their toes.
I mean, is it fast. Going so like when you're calling a one-word play, is it you're practically snapping it as soon as it's set?
Yeah, as soon as they allow it. So like, we'll, after the play, if we want to throw a fastball, then we'll signal it in. It's one signal, one word, everybody's lining up, and they're trying to snap it as soon as they possibly can, as soon as the refs will let us.
Yeah, okay. And is that just a feel thing, or is that trying to mix it in, or when you use it, is it like one time and back to normal tempo, or is it like bang, 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 bang?
Switch it up. I mean, really, a lot of it is when you're kind of feeling stale, maybe on offense, right? And you just want to kind of change things up, then you get a play with decent yardage. Like, hey, let's just go tempo after. Let's go quick. And some games it works really well for us, and then that way I'll stick with it,
Yeah.
But I would say it's something that a fastball we probably throw maybe 5 to most 10 times a game.
Yeah.
Then the other one is just a slow one where we're trying to go fast. We call it like a look back, right? We're getting up in the formation, getting ready to snap, trying to have the defense show their hand.
Yeah.
And then we'll look, signal a play and go from there.
Yeah.
And that one, same type of thing. You know, when you want to slow it down, maybe it's a crucial situation, maybe it's a third down, maybe it's a red zone, maybe they're getting a quick rush, you're just trying to slow the rush down, any of those type of things.
Now, are you setting the form when you call things in? Let's say it's Friday night. Is it like set the formation and then go, okay, what do I want to run? Or do you wait and go, here's what I want to run. Hey, formation play all now.
Yep. So if I'm doing the look back, let's slow it down. Yeah, I'm just throwing out a formation and then having them get lined up. But if we're just going our normal tempo, which is trying to be fast, then I'm going to say, okay, I've got the play. We've got multiple signalers. One, you know, I get paranoid about that stuff.
Sure. As
usual, I don't want. So we have multiple signalers, and I'll just read it to them, you know, through the headset. I'm like, okay, here's what we want. Here's the formation, play, boom, boom, boom. And they try and signal in as fast as we can.
Yeah. Well, I want to check in with our guys in the chat here. Jeff Rogers says, I always wonder why more teams don't shift in motion because it can cause a lot of confusion. So, which is absolutely true. I do actually have a small answer for that. One of the problems is that it takes time. It takes time to install, of course. And then the second thing is it takes time off the play clock.
Yes.
So, and this is what I've had, you know, I don't talk to many people. I don't talk like real football with people that aren't football coaches. You know, if I'm at the barbecue or whatever, I try to avoid those conversations because they're just frustrating in my opinion. But once in a while, you'll catch yourself in one of those, and I'll just try to say, I just can't explain how little time you have to make a decision on what you want to run.
Oh, it's so true. It goes so much faster in a game.
So now if you want to use a trade, you just took 5 seconds away from your time to make a decision. Like you have to. So I think that's probably a piece of it. Is like, because I want to all the time. And one thing that slows me down is, well, I can't make up my mind fast enough.
Right. And it's got to be, that's why for me, like I've got to have certain ones listed on my call sheet. Yeah. So if there's a certain down distance I want a specific look, I'm going to go there and read it as quick as I can to try and get it out. But I agree, like if you're huddling too, it's hard to get more motions in for the same reason, right? It's taking longer, play clock is going, all that stuff. And stability and continuity is big too. Like if you're changing up your system, offensive system, every other year or every so often, it's hard to throw motions in. But now, like the kids kind of get it. Oh, all I'm doing is motion to this formation, right? Like
the advantages of consistency from year to year. Like there's so many that you can't hardly quantify them. But that's clearly
what allows you to do fun stuff, man. Like, we talk about that as a staff all the time. Like it's nice to be at this point where we have stability because now you can try cool stuff. You can try and do some fun things. They don't always work out, but they're fun to try.
But when they do, it's so fun.
Yes, right?
Well, let's, Coach, we're at 8:30, so let's finish off with our last thing, which is I want to just ask a few more questions communication-wise, right? Everything's hand signals. Is that kids signaling in, or is it coaches signaling in?
Coaches. I have two different coaches that are getting the call. We've changed up how we do it. Sometimes there's just one's a live guy, one's a dummy guy. Maybe we could have one signaling stuff to the O-line, one signaling to the skills guy. I mean, quite honestly, I'm just trying to change it up best I can. And we signal all the time. In practice, we signal. Yeah. Like, you just have to embrace it. If that's what you are, that's how you do it. So we never huddle in practice. We have scripts. Yes. One of the guys is on the signal. He's signaling it in. We're going the whole time.
One of the things that has kept me from going to that is that I'm one of those guys that really loves my little tags, right? I want to run this play, but with this little tag.
Yes.
Do you ever feel limited by what you can run, by what you can communicate?
I haven't felt that. I felt that way on wristbands more than I did with signals.
Okay,
I mean, at this point, we have a signal literally for everything. I mean, every RPO tag, every concept, there's a signal. And I'm not, if it's something that we do quite often, maybe we haven't repped it a ton that week in practice, but if it's something we do often, I don't have a problem throwing it in during a game. Some coaches may be like, whoa, I don't like that. But for me, it's like, oh, you know what? I want to throw a different wrinkle. We're going to throw this tag or this one, and So if we're going to add something to it, we got to have a signal for it. That's just, they're all there is to it. Because that's why I changed from wristbands. I hated what you're talking about. I hated feeling limited. And motions is one of the biggest ones. I'm like, I'm going to write this same play, 4 times on a wristband? So one how I normally do it, one with the motion, one with a different type of motion. Like, I just felt so limited in-game adjustments.
Yes. Yeah, I could see that. Absolutely. Do you when you, here's one other worry I have. Do you have a solution for this? I've worried about wanting to add a tag, but I had called X play. Let's say the signal is this. Okay.
Yes.
I had called this 4 times, and the 5th time I wanted to run this.
Right.
Well, I went like this, and my main guy had looked back already. And I'm going, hey, no, I wanted
right.
this, then this.
Yes.
You ever run into that? That's like a super little thing, but
no, they are. And it's one of those things where that's why I like the guys that are signaling it, you know, like Coach Manuela. He's been doing it as part of it for years, and he's very good at it. Like, he knows me now, you know, and there's times where I'll say something. I'm like, shoot, that's not what I want. So he's learned to say, okay, I'm gonna get it, but I'm gonna wait till I know it's right.
Yes.
You know, like, because he doesn't want to be the guy yelling, no, over here, we're changing. You know? And I don't want to put him in that spot. So, yeah, it can be a challenge, but I think we've done it long enough that we're trying to weed out those type of situations.
Yes. Oh man, I'll tell you what. Oh, Coach Banky just checked in. Welcome back, Coach. Glad to have you. A couple comments out of the guys in the chat. I think it can be, Jeff Rogers said, I think it can be simple and still attracts the D players' eyes, can move them from their keys, get confusion, and fits. Yep. Amen to that. Yep. Coach Banky says, if you like tags, always found to have 3 or 4 one-word plays for your tags. Example, Texas is inside zone to the boundary with a bubble on the backside. Tech would be inside zone with a split flow. I like that.
Right. Yes, I love that too. Love it.
I like that. Well, awesome, man. Hey, how long, side question, do you guys ever catch yourself going, how long are we seriously going to debate what this signal is going to be?
Yes, quite often. Or sometimes, you know, what's good about it too is, you know, we all get caught up like, hey, I really like this new wrinkle or this new concept. I want to throw it in. But you have to think about, like, do I really want to create a signal for this? Because, you know, it's not going to be easy. So I think it's like an extra check to make sure we're not adding too much in. You know, but the other thing is at this point too, we try and kind of get the players involved in it, you know, because I want them to understand it. I'm not going to let them go crazy though. You know, they probably do some weird stuff.
Kids get carried away in a hurry. Yes. I mean, grown men do too, but the boys do even faster. Those are the things that make me laugh, because I feel like on every staff has like the one guy whose idea never gets accepted. And he always gets a little bitter about it.
Yes. You know, that's a challenge too. It really is but so we've been lucky here. I feel like I have the best assistant coaches. They're awesome. And they give me great input, you know, and it's hard too. Like, cause sometimes their input is something actually I really want to do, like myself, but I don't because I'm like, you know, whether other factors like, we don't have enough time to master it. We don't have enough time to rep. We don't this and that. So it's part of the game, I guess. It is. Struggle.
It is. Oh man, a ton of fun. I've just always loved it. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. If you could leave us a thumbs up, we would really appreciate it. We're back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time. Please join us. We're going to sit and watch a little film with Coach. Yes. Maybe try to pick his brain while we watch, man. So Coach, man, thanks again. Any closing thoughts before we say goodnight?
No, I'm loving it. I appreciate the time. Let's get back after it tomorrow night.
Awesome. We'll see you then, Coach.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks again so much, guys. I've had a fun week. Working right now on getting the head football coach at Skyridge out in Utah on for next week to do an install series with us on their defense, because that's the next series coming over to the online clinic. Hey, if you like what Coach Hunsaker has been up to, or you like hearing from him, you like his offense, you like the way he thinks, he did a clinic, he did a presentation over on the online clinic. That's clinic.chiefpigskin.com. And so did their wide receiver coaches. Coach Manuela and Coach Stevens did incredible over an hour presentation, wide receiver play. And it's not like just drills. It's really like their concepts and how they're trying to get open and how they're teaching it. A lot of great stuff. They got an outstanding staff out there. So look them up on Twitter, man. Reach out to them individually for help. I guess that's all I got. I've had a blast, man. I'm having a good time, so I don't want to get off tonight. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow night.